So I invite you to sit for a moment with the word plenty. Plenty. What feelings or images come to you when you sit with that word? Plenty, abundance, enough, comfort. I hope as those words wash over you that you feel peace like a river, or joy like a fountain, or love like an ocean. I hope you feel satisfied and content and nourished by what you have in your life. All month in worship, we've been thinking about linked systems of oppression, those ones that were named by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in his 1967 speech, Beyond Vietnam. We faced racism and how all of us are hurt by a culture of white supremacy. We delved into sexism and how it shatters the richness of our stories, of our very identity. Last week, we grieved militarism and how it enables the gun culture that we live in today. And this morning, we're naming excessive materialism, how it clings to us in a culture that begs us to become consumers, corroding our peace of mind and happiness. These linked oppressions work to make us feel deficient, discontent, deprived. We're all harmed by these oppressions that cause brokenness in us, cause pain like arrows in our souls. I appreciate that Dr. King qualified the word materialism with the word extreme. Now, a couple of you came up to me before service, and I don't know if you were confiding in me or what it was exactly, but you said to me, you know what? I think I might be an extreme materialist. And I thought, you know what? You're not, no. I really don't care what you bought this week, but unless you're hiding something really big from me, and if you are, I have some windows that need sponsors. For repair and restoration, we'll pass the basket. But I was like, I really don't think you're an extreme materialist. So I don't want any of you to think that I'm up here pointing my finger at you because maybe you bought a shirt, or maybe you drive a car, or maybe you eat food. I am not. Because you know what? I know that all of us in this room wake up pretty much every morning with enough self-flagellation that the last thing you need is to come here on Sunday and have your pastor pointing her finger at you, right? Like, you're not a terrible person because you buy a shirt. And I would certainly be turning that finger and pointing it right at myself because I buy shirts and I drove my car here today, and I can guarantee you that I'm gonna eat food at lunch. So we all consume things in our lives. And from what I know about each of you is that you put a lot of thought into where you place your hard-earned money. I know that many of you enjoy shopping at secondhand stores, not just because of the prices, but because you feel really great about reusing a shirt or a scarf or a jacket or whatever it is you find there. I know that so many of you buy organic produce whenever you can because you feel really great about supporting farming practices that help us move toward sustainability on our earth. And I know that a number of you also think really carefully about your gas mileage and your emissions with whatever vehicle you're driving because you want to help cut down on greenhouse gases. So when Dr. King used this term, excessive materialism, he was not looking out at you all. He really wasn't. He wasn't talking about buying a shirt from Target or driving a car to church or going out to a nice meal every now and again. He was talking about, in his own words from that 1967 speech, individual capitalists of the West investing huge sums of money in Asia, Africa, and South America, only to take profits out with no concern for the social betterment of those countries. He was talking about this system of materialism that values property rights and profit margins over people. He was talking about those who refuse to give up the privileges and pleasures from immense profits from overseas investments. He was talking about a society that values things over people. It's not hard to imagine the differences between those two sets of values, is it? Things on the one hand, people on the other. Last summer, a film came out that lifted up the sharp contrast. So the film was called Beatrice at Dinner. Did any of you see it at the Limley or somewhere else? Yay, there's some hands in the room. All right. If you didn't see it, I do recommend, clearly because I'm preaching about it, putting it in your queue wherever you watch things. So in this film, there's a very people-oriented society that is characterized by a woman named Beatrice. She's a holistic healer. She lives just up the hill in Altadena. She lives with her dogs and her goats, and that's probably where George Patton goes to get the goat stuff, compost for our garden. And I imagine that she would be right at home walking the paths of Troop Learning Garden, taking herbs and flowers for her tinctures. And so, of course, opposite Beatrice, there's a man named Doug. And there would be an underscore with Doug of like menacing music. He is a dominating, white, older, billionaire real estate tycoon, clearly the face of a thing-oriented society. And for some of us, it wouldn't take much to also liken that particular character to another character we know is very active on Twitter, not saying the name today. So Doug is portrayed as a person for whom the word plenty has absolutely no meaning. He'd probably take one look at Troop and our beautiful garden, and instead of seeing it as a place for spiritual seekers and a haven for ravens and bees, he instead would see the location for a prime luxury real estate development. Don't tell Doug we're here. His character is a person who is fully immersed in extreme materialism, this value system that's preoccupied with possessions and the social image they project. Unable to appreciate the beauty of the world around him, Doug literally buys all the loveliness that life has for sale. At one point in the film, Doug shows Beatrice a series of photos featuring him out on safari in some country in Africa, standing victoriously over the carcasses, the bodies of these beautiful, magnificent animals that he killed. And she looks at it, and I'm guessing that if any of us were shown similar photos, we might have the same expression on our faces that Beatrice has in the film. And her reply to him is, "You think killing is hard? Try healing. You can break something in 2 seconds, but it can take forever to fix it." We see evidence all around us of a materialistic system tearing the social fabric of our community. Right here in Pasadena, we see homelessness. Right here in Pasadena, we see a police department that is failing to protect and to serve our Black and brown siblings. Right here in Pasadena, maybe right here in this room, we have people that work long hours for less wages, just struggling to make ends meet, tearing apart the fabric of our society. This film highlights people that are faced with the ever constant, insistent pull toward more, and how we navigate that. The film plays with 3 questions. Why are we here? What difference can we really make? And what good can we accomplish? 3 pretty heavy-duty theological and religious questions. Those are questions that we struggle with too here. How much is enough? Is what I'm doing actually mattering? Are my own actions healing or harming the world? While none of us are those individual capitalists investing huge sums of money overseas that the Reverend King talked about, we are all caught up in this web of more. If you live in the world, if you have screen time, if you pick up a paper, a magazine, if you see a billboard on the street or on a bus, you too experience this constant bombardment of images trying to convince us that our worth is made up of what we wear, what we buy, what we drive, where we choose to eat. Materialism tries to take something from us, and it's not just our money. Its goal is to reshape how we understand ourselves. It wants to take away the stories about ourselves that we spend a lifetime trying to carefully craft. Excessive materialism, it wants us to believe in a new story that it's making. It tries to make us believe that we are consumers instead of citizens, and it whispers to us. It whispers to us words like buy, assets, expensive. And as we hear them, research shows that our bodies actually experience a temporary shift in material aspirations, anxiety, and depression. When these words are whispered in our ears, we temporarily, not permanently, but we temporarily become more competitive, more selfish. We care less about loving the world around us, including those very closest and dear to us. Our very own hearts become more thing-oriented than people-oriented. Research shows that materialism fosters social isolation, which in turn fosters us wanting to buy things to cover up that hole we're carrying around with us. It tries to substitute our connection with God, our connection with sacred, our connection with each other. It tries to substitute that with a connection to things. So that feels kind of depressing. Yeah, okay. But actually, I'm sorry. I actually didn't mean for that to. But I want you all to try something this week. When you're on a screen, when you're looking at a magazine, when you happen to notice, like, oh, materialism, that's trying to pull me into its web. What I want you to do, and this is your homework from the pulpit, everybody. I want you to watch out for these words, like buy, assets, expensive, status. For some reason, I'm seeing like some kind of fancy car commercial in the background, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be lots of things. I want you to watch out for images of luxury items that none of us really need. And when you hear or see those, your homework is for you to just pause in that moment. And I want you to think to yourself instead these words: plenty, abundance, enough, comfort. Plenty, abundance, enough, comfort. Plenty, abundance, enough, comfort. And as you do, I want you to recenter yourself into who you are. The story of you and all that you are and all of the ways you love the world around you. When you hear those words that try to cast you as a consumer of the world rather than as a citizen of the world, I want you to remember that you absolutely do make a difference in the world. You absolutely do make a difference here. You absolutely do make a difference in the life of someone who is near and dear to you. And if you can't think of who that person is, you can have my face in that. You make a difference to me. You make a difference to me. Our theme song for this month was There Is More Love. Love was at the core of Reverend King's theology. It was at the core of his radical revolution of values that he called for. Near the end of his Beyond Vietnam speech, he quoted British economic historian Arnold Toynbee, who was actively involved in improving the lives of people in London who had low wages and poor living conditions. And so it seems very right to end this series on sin with these words about love. Love is the ultimate force that makes for the saving choice of life and good against the damning choice against evil and death. Therefore, the first hope in our inventory must be the hope that love is going to have the last word. Love will have the last word. Let's sing it together. There's more love.